The Johansson family, which includes Scott, Kate, and Alex, went on a tour of Bucknell University. Alex wanted to study there next year, but instead of listening to the guide, Scott and Kate were busy telling Alex to stay away from bad behavior. A few months later, Alex graduated and signed up to attend Bucknell. She soon got an email from the school. When she opened it with her parents, they saw that she was accepted. To celebrate, Scott had a party at his house. He invited neighbors and friends, including Frank. Frank was a man who had problems with gambling and watching bad movies. College would cost a lot of money, and Scott was counting on a city scholarship to pay for Alex's tuition. But at a city meeting that year, they learned that the scholarship program would stop. The mayor, Bob, planned to use the money to build a public swimming pool. This pool needed a lot of money, so the scholarship budget was used for the pool instead. Scott and Kate were upset and spoke out. They wanted the scholarship to stay. The mayor decided to hold a vote. When the results came in, most people voted for the swimming pool. Scott and Kate were disappointed because they had no extra money to pay for Alex's tuition. To solve this, they looked for ways to get more money. They went to the bank for a loan, but the bank said no. Kate asked her old job if they could hire her again, but they couldn't. Scott asked his boss for a raise, but his boss couldn't agree. They felt hopeless because nothing worked. Then they remembered a plan to visit Las Vegas with Frank. They decided to go to Frank's house to cancel the trip. But when they arrived, they saw Frank arguing with his wife, Raina. Raina was upset because Frank couldn't stop gambling and watching bad movies. She even asked for a divorce. Frank looked sad and messy. Seeing this, Scott decided not to cancel the trip, especially when Frank said he had been looking forward to it to feel better. In the end, the three of them went to Las Vegas and visited a casino. When they entered, Frank looked very happy and full of energy. He even asked Scott and Kate to join a betting game. At first, Scott and Kate didn't want to join, but Frank said they might win enough money to pay for Alex's college. This made Scott curious, so he decided to try. Scott bet a few $100s on the number 4, even though Frank thought it was unlucky. Surprisingly, Scott won. Even better, he kept winning more money. Frank said Scott was very lucky and told him to keep betting everything. The small amount of money grew into enough to pay for Alex's tuition. However, Scott wasn't happy to stop. He bet all his winnings on the number 4 again. This time, Scott lost because the dice showed the number 7. Scott lost everything, including the money he started with. Frank tried to make him feel better by saying, "It's normal for the casino to win in the end." Scott joked, "What if I was the casino?" Frank took the idea seriously. When they got back from Las Vegas, Frank shared a plan to make money quickly: start their own casino. He explained how the casino always wins in the end, using a gambling strategy. Scott liked the idea, but Kate thought it was too risky. Scott insisted because they needed money for Alex's college. For Alex's future, Kate finally agreed. Frank turned his house into a casino because it had many empty rooms. His wife had left and taken most of the furniture. The house had a tall fence and was soundproof, so no one outside could see or hear what was happening. Frank even made a secret entrance, and players parked their cars behind the nearby supermarket. While Frank prepared the casino, Scott and Kate searched for players. They invited friends and neighbors who were busy and had a lot of money. Scott believed these people would enjoy gambling to relieve stress from work. When enough players joined, they entered through the supermarket, went out the back door, and arrived in Frank's backyard. The players were surprised to see Frank's house had real casino machines. They started playing, and everyone had fun, while Frank, Scott, and Kate watched and helped with anything the players needed. Frank kept adding new machines every day, and more people came. He even set up a bar and stand-up comedy shows for entertainment. The casino ran well in the first week. However, a problem came up. They lost $3,500 because some visitors won big at the tables. Scott and Kate became nervous, especially when they saw that Alex's tuition cost $50,000. In the second week, Frank installed 5 safes. Each safe could hold $100,000. If all the safes were full, they would have $500,000 to share equally. More visitors kept coming, but the growing number of people also brought new problems. One day, 2 players, Reggie and Garvey, got into a fight after one of them lost a bet. Scott tried to stop them, but Frank had a different idea. He set up a boxing ring and let them fight while inviting others to bet on the winner. The fight ended quickly when Garvey was knocked out in one hit. This upset a visitor named Martha because she had bet on Garvey to win. Martha complained, and another player, Laura, joined her. Soon, Martha and Laura were in the ring, replacing Reggie and Garvey. Their fight was much more exciting because both of them were equally strong. They fought hard and ended up bloody, but neither could win. In the end, they both got knocked out at the same time. Since there was no winner, all the betting money went to the casino, adding a large profit. Frank decided to expand the business. He added a swimming pool and a massage area to make visitors feel comfortable and stay longer at the casino. At the weekly City Hall meeting, many residents were absent without explanation. Laura came to the meeting, but she had a bruised and battered face. Mayor Bob noticed and asked her about it. Laura, still angry about losing the fight, thought Bob was challenging her and got annoyed. After the meeting, Bob told an officer named Chandler to investigate what was happening in the neighborhood. Chandler observed the area for a few days and noticed something strange. The parking lot of a supermarket was always full at night. Chandler watched the supermarket and saw a suspicious visitor. He followed the visitor to the back of the supermarket but didn't confront him. The next morning, Chandler returned to the area and saw Frank in the forest, putting something in his pocket. Chandler asked Frank what he was doing, but Frank quickly took out his phone and accused Chandler of trespassing on his property. Apart from this close call with the police, the casino faced another problem. A player was caught cheating. Frank spotted the cheater using CCTV. Frank and Scott tried to stop the cheater with words, but the man laughed at them. He wasn't afraid because he worked for Tommy, a dangerous loan shark in the town. Scott grabbed an axe to scare the cheater, but things went wrong. By accident, Scott chopped off one of the man's fingers. The next day, Scott felt very guilty about what had happened. He couldn't stop thinking about cutting off someone's finger by mistake. Scott started hallucinating, seeing fingers everywhere, or imagining someone cutting off their finger. He panicked and hid at Frank's house. He told Frank about his problem. Frank reassured him, saying it was just his imagination. Frank also reminded Scott of something important. People were now afraid of him. Since the incident, no one dared to borrow money without paying it back. They were too scared of losing their fingers if they didn't pay. With the money they earned from collecting debts, Scott and Frank decided to celebrate by having dinner at a fancy restaurant. While eating, Frank noticed his ex-wife Raina with another man. Angry, Frank walked over to confront them. He tried to fight the man, but the man was much stronger and pinned Frank to the ground easily. The restaurant called Chandler, who warned Frank not to cause trouble. Not long after, Bob arrived with his secretary. They noticed Scott and Kate's unusual behavior and became suspicious. The next night, Bob and Chandler decided to visit Frank's house. Chandler believed the full parking lot at the supermarket was connected to Frank's house, so he convinced Bob to investigate with him. When they entered, Chandler was shocked to see that Frank's house was a real casino. There were slot machines and gamblers everywhere. When the players realized the police were there, they ran away. Only Scott, Frank, and Kate stayed behind. Bob and Chandler searched the house room by room until they found the safes in Frank's room. Bob confiscated all the money, saying it would be used for city development. This was devastating for Scott and Kate, who had worked so hard to save money for Alex's college. Scott wanted to quit gambling altogether, saying it wasn't their world. But Kate refused to give up. She decided to call all their old customers and tell them the casino was back in business. Her plan worked, and the customers returned to spend money at the casino. But just as the business restarted, they got unexpected visitors, Alex and Tommy. Alex had been invited to the casino by her friends. She was shocked to discover her parents were running it. Tommy came for a different reason: revenge. Tommy was angry about his subordinate's cut finger and wanted compensation. He searched the entire casino until he found Frank. Frank directed him to Scott and Kate. When Tommy saw the safes, he demanded money for the injured subordinate. Kate tried to explain that all the money had been taken by the police, so there was nothing left to give. This made Tommy furious. He grabbed Alex and said he would keep her as collateral until Scott paid what he owed. Tommy handcuffed Alex's hand to his so she couldn't escape. He didn't notice when Scott appeared behind him with an axe. With Kate's help, Scott tried to cut the handcuffs, holding Tommy and Alex together. Unfortunately, he missed and accidentally cut off Tommy's arm instead. Tommy screamed loudly in pain. Things got worse when Kate showed up with a flamethrower, trying to scare Tommy. Instead, she accidentally burned his other hand. Kate panicked and shouted for someone to put out the fire. Scott grabbed a glass of water, not realizing it was vodka, and poured it on Tommy. Tommy's men also used water guns to help, but they were also filled with vodka. Frank tried to stop the fire by rolling Tommy on the carpet, but this only spread the flames. Soon, the fire burned down Frank's entire house, destroying all the casino money and everything inside. Once again, Scott and Kate failed to pay for Alex's college tuition. They decided to tell Alex the truth. They couldn't afford to send her to college. They also explained that Bob had taken the money they earned. Hearing Bob's name made Alex very angry. She decided to get the money back from him. At first, Scott and Kate thought it was impossible, but Chandler surprised them by offering to help. Chandler said he was tired of Bob because Bob didn't care about the city. He also revealed that Bob was using city money to have an affair with his secretary. When Scott heard that the money was being wasted on such things, he was furious. Together with Kate and Chandler, they planned to get the money back. They lured Bob out of his office by showing him a video of people mocking him at the casino. Bob got angry and decided to raid the casino with Chandler. As soon as Bob left the office, the Johansson family entered, opened Bob's safe, and took the money. Luckily, the money was still in a suitcase, so they grabbed it and tried to escape. But Bob's secretary saw them leaving and immediately called Bob. Bob returned just in time to block their escape. The family tried to run, but Bob caught up and grabbed the suitcase. He handcuffed the suitcase to his wrist so they couldn't take it. Scott then used an axe to break the handcuffs. This time, he managed to free the suitcase without hurting Bob. At that moment, Chandler arrived. Bob ordered him to arrest the Johansson family, but Chandler refused. Bob's secretary also appeared, and Bob expected her to side with him. However, she turned against Bob because she wanted to stay loyal to her husband. Bob was left alone, furious that he had given everything to the secretary. In his anger, he admitted that he had used city funds for his affair. Scott revealed that Bob's confession was recorded on camera, causing Bob to panic and run away. Finally, Scott and his family took the money home. They immediately used it to pay Alex's tuition at Bucknell University. At last, Alex could start her college journey.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share.